I'll add him back in. We're live. Okay. All right. And we are live.
We're live. Hi, everybody. I think we're live.
Hi, Janet.
Hi. Okay. Hello, and welcome to this special live stream conversation presented by Murmur Theater, based in Brooklyn, New York. We're thrilled today to have Tori Amos with us for the launch of her new book, Resistance, a songwriter's story of hope, change, and courage. As I'm sure everyone knows, Tori is a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, pianist, composer, and with Ann Powers, the author of Tori Amos, Piece by Piece. She has released 15 studio albums, including her latest, Native Invader, in 2017. Today, she'll be in conversation with Noah Michelson. Noah is the editorial director of HuffPost Personal, which he launched in 2018, and the host of D is for Desire, a podcast about love, sex, and relationships. Tori and Noah will speak for about 45 minutes, and then we'll have time for a Q&A using questions that were pre-selected from among the questions sent in by those who bought books for today's event. Just a few quick notes before we start. You should be able to see and hear our presenters, but they cannot see or hear you. And if you look down here below our screens, you'll also see a Buy the Book button where you can navigate to purchase a copy of Resistance from our partner bookstore, Community Bookstore. If you've ordered or plan to order a book, due to the shipping limitations from the quarantine, delivery times have been dramatically affected. So please allow up to 10 to 15 business days for delivery. Please reach out if you have any problems after that period. A caveat for tonight's event: we're all at the mercy of our home internet connections and server loads, so please bear with any technical issues that might arise during the program. We'll try to solve them quickly. And finally, we're adding more virtual programming every week. One that I want to mention, we'll be hosting Otessa Moshfegh for the launch of her new novel, Death in Her Hands, in conversation with Ariel Levy on June 25th. So check out our website at www.murmur.com next week for tickets and more information. Thanks so much for being here with us. Now I'm happy to hand things over to Tori Amos and Noah Michelson.
Thank you, Jen. Hi, Noah. Noah.
Tori, I can't hear you. I don't know if everyone else can hear me. We're already having technical difficulties.
I can hear
you,
Noah.
This is what happens in the day and age of the pandemic when we're all stuck at home. I'm going to try and reboot real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
Thanks.
okay. I'll just have a chat if people can hear me. I don't know if they can hear me, but hi, everybody. We're here at Martian Engineering, and hopefully the Martians make sure you can hear me. We're in Cornwall, and thank you for coming. Thank you for being so supportive. And I'm so excited to talk to Noah. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. This is a whirly. We're in the getting fixed room. So that didn't come out right. Fixing machines. So this is this was at Woodstock. So for the New York launch, Country Joe and the Fish, I think, played this whirly, and she's going to be repaired and hopefully on the new record that we're just beginning to work on. So other things back here, we have Bad Cat amp. There you are, Noah.
I'm back.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. This is what happens, right? This is the brave new world that we're living in.
Yeah, but we're in yellow together.
Where nothing goes right. But I'm here. And we're in yellow together. Yeah. So I was telling you before we started that I've just sort of been jotting down questions since John, your manager, asked me if I wanted to do this a couple months ago. So I just have a bunch of questions. We're going to have a good time. And if things get messed up, we'll just keep going. But it's so good to see you. So happy to be doing this with you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. So I want to start here. In the book you write, some writers are great with conjuring choruses, others are great writing verses, and still others can create bridges. Some can do it all, but some writers just have a knack for one of those sections. So I obviously think that you can do all of them, but in my head, I have one that I think you're the best at. And before I tell you what I think it is, I want to hear if you think you're better at choruses, verses, or bridges, or all three.
I think bridge is my thing.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I think I'm better at that than the other two, yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about bridges while Noah comes back. I love writing a bridge. I think I don't just see it as a middle eight as in 8 bars. I see it as another world. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. So it's my favorite part. Sometimes I just write bridges for fun, and then I have to write the rest of the song. But I better get cracking because I need to be writing and recording a record very, very soon, as in 2 weeks ago. But you know, I'm a little behind, but that's all right. We're launching this book, and these are my journals that I'm working on. I'm just waffling until people pop back on, because those who are online, I reckon we can just vibe with each other. So hoping that my buddy Noah will be back on very soon. And you know what I could do while we're waiting is answer some questions so that Noah can ask his questions when he pops back on. Could do that. Husband, you're such a good frickin' PA. Thank you for printing these out for me. Okay.
Tori.
Hi, Noah.
This is going to be a nightmare, and I apologize. I don't know what's going on, but let's just keep trying.
Let's keep trying.
And you're being such a good sport. I think if I disappear again, you should just read some of the fan questions because they're great. But
they are.
I convinced you to go back into your library and see if you could find some of your old songbooks that you were using when you were writing different albums. And I would love to talk about what you found.
Okay, so Noah, in a wonderful way, pushed me to go into my old store. Like it's the library, but it's a kind of a storage place. But it's the library. Anyway, so I found this book. And this was the book in 2006 when we were working on American Doll Posse. And this was the list of all the songs that we were working on. And some others started to appear. So we have Christmas in July, which was supposed to be for Santa, Body and Soul, Teenage Hustling for Pip, of course, Father, Son, and then Inhale. I can't remember Inhale. And Dark Side of the Sun, the Lucy, which we talked about a bridge for Edge of the Moon, Miracle, which is somewhere in here, Rooster Spur Bridge, Almost Rosie, My Posse Can Do, that was a B-side, You Can Bring Your Dog, Femme Fatale, which never made it, Shoot That Arrow, which I've been working on for 15 years, and Matt, John, and I were jamming on that. Shame About Kate, which almost caused a divorce between me and husband because it was called Inside Job. And I have this talent for buggery things up, as they say. And I really can mess up a song. So I decided to mess with Inside Job, and I ruined it. And Mark was right. So it didn't make the record. And I just didn't try to revisit it on Abnormally Attracted to Sin. But I might one day. Okay, Digital Ghost, Code Red, Secret Spell, Bouncing Off Clouds, Beauty of Speed, Crystalline, had the seeds that became Reindeer King, and Smokey Joe Girl disappearing. Oh, no, it went away. Well, anyway, he's the reason that I found this. So I'm very grateful because I found a song that, there you are. I was saying how grateful I was to you, Noah, because I wouldn't have done this without you. And so,
Songs like when you talk or Inside Job, are those songs that
okay, those songs we were working up. If I'm not saying I can figure out what you're going to ask me because you have such a great brain, but we were working them up. Yeah, they were written, and we were demoing them. And I think Mark has recordings of them somewhere. I do believe he might have to search in his, but he's very organized. So they were being recorded in 2006 and didn't make the cut. Although there was a camp that thought Christmas in July should really be on the record, and they haven't forgiven me for not doing that. So I'm just waiting to see Noah on the screen, and then we'll go, oh, Hi-Ho Silver, what in the world is that? Oh my God. This is another song. I just found this a couple hours ago, guys, so I have no idea what some of these things are. Okay, Mermaids, that's interesting. There's Almost Rosie when it was being written. Hi, Noah, there you are. You're such a sport for trying to do this. Oh. Okay, abracadabra. Femme fatale. Oh, okay. The assonance of nymphs and geometric and tendrils. Yay. There you are, Noah.
It brings me to the question I had. From New Yorker interview that you just did. You said that after Native Invader, you were writing a lot of crap. How do you know when something is crap? How do you know when something just isn't done yet? Like, when do you send it to the song graveyard?
That's a really good question. I think I'm quite ruthless, and sometimes I'm premature on my grave digging. I am, but some songs won't go away.
Mm-hmm.
They, like this little notebook. I mean, I had no idea this was here. Femme fatale. It's all right here. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I should read the lyrics because they could be terrible.
Read a couple.
When you're a femme fatale, a dainty dab of perfume, and then you can go in weaponless. Yeah, when you're a femme fatale, you can do pretty much anything you want to do. Okay, I think
so. If the lyrics are in that book, does that mean that you still would keep working on them as you recorded, and that's just sort of the initial jumping off point?
It means we were working on this stuff. It means it got to a stage. Whereas these books, which are the current ones over here, this is how it begins before you get here. Okay? Mm-hmm. Before you get here, you live in books like these. Okay? And what happens is, for example, Coco Confessed from January 29th. She's here. And
so that's a new song that you're working on.
Yes, and she might not be called Coco Confessed, but there's timelines. So it'll say at 2:43, check this. 6 minutes, check this. And then I'll have a color-coded thing here, which is red, and it'll give me a note saying, it's right here, sorry, in another book. It's it says mostly here. The song's mostly here, except I know Noah's in and out. I get it. But then it says on February 23rd, check Chiron. Chiron, then I did, and then say Chiron, which is another song, has nothing to do with Coco Confessed. So this is the beginning of note taking. And I think if I showed you, so everything is on a device. It used to be cassettes, and now it's on something digital that I have with me all the time. On a plane when we were flying, in the car, just if I'm pull aside alongside the road, when I'm going to the grocery store and just something happens, then I'm recording it. So there are thousands of recordings. Some things are 11 minutes, some things are 25 seconds. And so, but then what you have to do is take the time. The time is the scribe time. That's the discipline. Because that takes the work. When you're getting that magic from the muses and it's all tingly, then that feels great. But then you have to sharpen your pencil and start logging it. And then you're logging thousands and thousands of pieces since 2017. Do you see? And if you're going to do this correctly, then you have to listen to everything. And so while you're listening to stuff that's not working, because the muses might come in for a minute and then I'm just jamming with it. And some of it will work, but maybe not there. So it's logging it. And that's just been my process. Rarely do they just download a song completed. I have to really then go do the work. If that makes sense.
Do you already know for the new album, like, oh yeah, it makes total sense. Do you know sonically what you want the new album to sound like? Are you thinking like, oh, the harpsichord is actually back, or this is gonna have drum programming, or are you just at a stage right now where it's just really about getting the bones down and you'll worry about the production and the sonics later?
This is a lot about the bones right now, because I have an idea of where sonically we might be going, but it's really about getting the stories right and capturing this time too, what's happening to us now, because songs have to work for people, as we talked about. It's cataclysmic what's going on, and so songs have to work and answer so that people are relating to them.
But when you say that, is that just lyrically, or is that sonically too? Is there a sound, do you think, to what's going on right now that you're trying to capture as well?
Well, I think that everything starts out pretty much for me on the piano, and then it starts to make its way out. Then it starts to, that's when we talk about the bones and the body is there in the song. And then she starts to play dress up. And then stylistically that begins to change. And it might, some songs have more than one arrangement because they want to try, you want to try it, they can hold it. And so some songs could live on the piano and just there, and then sometimes they evolve, and that takes you can always go back, but it's about not being afraid to evolve. And some songs just are very clear about well, I've got to be played on the piano. And you just know that because you hear it and you think the magic is there. But then some really want to try it on the whirly. They want that type of sound. And sometimes, we have a whole keyboard setup in the other room, and then the piano's in a different room. And the keyboard setup has about 6 to 8 keyboards over there. And then there's an organ in there. And the harpsichord is in the piano room. The harpsichord they need a lot of looking after to be
Mm.
record ready. So we have to get a harpsichord tuner in and get it all worked out to record. And of course, that's not happening yet anyway. So yeah, not to waffle on about all this, but I think people have asked me about the process, and it's not a secret. It's not, I'm not trying to keep it from anybody. I think sharing is really good. And each songwriter and each writer has their process. But for me, a lot of the time is documenting, because if you don't spend the time listening back, then you could miss you can miss the magic, and then you have to pair it with. So there are notes here. For example, I had one to show you. It says this one is called "Make Like Water," and before you popped off when we were talking about with Coco Confessed, there's a note here. On February 23, that's where she's logged on the recording device. And then it says, check Chiron. Chiron has, and then I make a note, Chiron has nothing to do with the song, so don't worry, they can both live in the same world. And I see Noah's popped off again. He'll be back. So this is another one we're working on here. They're notes from February 7th, the spring watery. It says, go back. You have to go back to February 9th, which is Wawa, and then go back to January 10th, 2020, all 2020. And then go back further still to November 9th. These all can work together. So sometimes it really is in the taking the time to put these nuggets together, and they are interconnected. All ideas that I'm just jamming with don't all form a song. Some are just moving from one idea to another idea. And that's the key, is getting these ideas to work together and form a song. That's just been my process since I can remember. Since I used to write on bills, on the bills. Bills used to come in paper for our generation. So I would just write on the back of the bills, and those would be my ideas. But now I've tried to get a little bit more organized and color coded, and hoping Noah will come back. But I might start on some amazing questions from you guys. Okay, here they are. As a playwright, this is from Carrie, I think. Hi, Carrie. As a playwright, watching my whole industry disappear overnight, I'm feeling completely paralyzed. What is your advice for an artist who needs to completely revamp their way of doing things and working without worrying so much about the result? I want to learn to love writing again and rediscover myself. Yeah, Noah and I were talking about this before. And it's, again, our world has been turned upside down. We have to acknowledge that. I think, for me anyway, the whole live side of our world, we don't know when it's going to be cooking again. So there is a side where I think you have to write out of your paralysis. You have to. You can, if you allow yourself to do that. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy. Writing your way out of hell, I've had to do that. And I'm doing that now, where the idea of not touring again for a long time has been a deep grief for me, because I love it. I just adore it. And I adore seeing you guys, and I adore the exchange and the collaboration we have. It's magic. It's heaven on earth for me. So, but having said that, we have to, in this time, find ways. We have to find ways to write and to communicate. I'm not saying it's easy. Being an artist with a capital A is not easy. Being artist with a small a which means when the champagne is clicking and they're at your play or they're at the concert or the project and we've had a good night and wow, we're kind of walking on air. That's still artist with a small a, okay? Smartest artist with a big A. That is ass kicking when the fucking shitstorm is on. And I have to listen, I have to take my own advice here, but we have to support each other to get out of bed in the morning and to open ourselves up to being artists with a big A. And that's not easy to do. I mean, if we're artists in the dark times as well as in the groovy times when things are kind of going our way, well, things are really tough for the arts industry right now, for all of us. So we have to, not all of us may feel like we have an inner trailblazer or an inner innovator. Maybe we collaborate with people. Maybe that's what we need to do, and find trailblazers to work with us creatives. And then, wow, something different. We're adapting, we're changing. And I think that's really important. Not easy to do. Not easy. But I support you, Carrie. I encourage you. And I can't wait to see the play that you're going to write. And then how you're going to stage it. I mean, you know, this is really fascinating to me. I want to know how you're going to do that. Because not being a playwright, I can't think like you great people. But I'd want to know what cast is available. I mean, what people are quarantining during this time, what actors are quarantining, so that maybe you write toward that. I don't know, but it seems like there are possibilities, really interesting possibilities, but it's having the fire. That's the thing. You've got to have the fire and the water. Maybe that's your energy. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I'm saying the energy to persevere. And we can do this. We can be resilient. That's the key. Resistance is now about being resilient and resisting being demoralized. It's not easy. I get it. Okay, another question. And I love the lovely Noah. So anytime I'm just holding fort till he comes back on. Yeah, Tash, can you pop in? That would be great.
Go.
Hi, guess who's back?
Hi, Tash.
Hi, I've got some very great questions to
Perfect.
ask you so you don't have to interview yourself.
Thank you.
So the first one is from Jonathan Carter, and he asks, Tori, you have so beautifully spoken about grief throughout your career, personified her in a lullaby for Tash. While we are all in another moment of feels like collective grief, I was wondering if you can share some insights on your evolving relationship with her/grief and the biggest lesson to come from meeting and befriending her.
Grief. It's vast, isn't it?
Mm.
We experienced that, Tash, didn't we, with Grandma?
Yeah.
And you were the one that really said to me, do you remember what you said to me?
No.
Grandma lives in each of us, those of us that knew her,
Mm.
and that she taught us how to treat other people.
Mm.
And you said to me, I need my mom back.
Mm.
And I'm sorry that I was so deep in the grief that I deserted you for a while. I'm sorry about that. But the grief was that, to answer Jonathan, the grief was so deep.
Mm.
And Tash and I were together working through it. We were in Florida and popping in to see her granddad, my dad,
Mm.
who was just beside himself.
Yeah.
Beside himself. And so working through that, I think realizing the turning point was when Tash said to me, "There you are, Noah."
Oh, no.
Tash, thank you for playing pinch hitter. I appreciate it.
Of course. Have a lovely chat. I'm going to go check on my carrots. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Okay, let's try this again. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, one question I wanted to ask you about is about failure. In the book, you say that your dad asked you to specifically talk about failure. And you've talked about it a lot over this week about why can't Tori read, the band you were in, that album didn't do well. But I want to go to a different time. I want to go to the last show of the Dewdrop In tour.
Oh.
And you told a story before Marianne, and you said that when you put out Boys for Pele, the record company totally shit on it, and they didn't like it. And everything that had happened that year was because of the fans, not radio, not the record company. But in that moment, when you first heard back from them and they were like, what the hell is this? Did you feel like a failure at that point? Did you have some PTSD from Why Can't Tori Read? Or were you already strong enough in your conviction as an artist where you thought, no, I know this is good and we're going to go with this? Talk about that and how failure either did or didn't play into your life then.
Good question. Things were very tough once it came out because the critics were divided and some were very harsh. And radio was not there at all. The record label turned against me, full tilt. Management wasn't strong. And, I think a lot of things got broken at that time. My trust in certain people and, the team that made Boys for Pele, everybody that worked on that record was convinced of what it was and committed to that it was a punk harpsichord record, really.
Mm-hmm.
And, Mark would say to me, if you're going to make a punk record, then you stand tall.
Mm-hmm.
And just because these, he's from Grimsby, so who put the gun in Scunthorpe, okay? Those Scunthorpe people don't have the brains to understand what this is. This isn't an easy listening piece of work. This is a woman nailing the fucking patriarchy on their corruption and their assault of everything that isn't a heterosexual fucking white male.
Yeah.
And I made half that record with fucking heterosexual white men who were feminists with me, okay?
Yeah.
And an African-American man, George Porter, who was right there and was in the Meters and played with Rolling Stones and played with some of the greatest artists ever. And so, yes, Noah, it was tough because we were out touring and I was getting pretty beat up by the industry, some of the industry. And it was the fans who would stand in line and say, I understand this record. I understand. I know what you're doing. I know the energy. I know the energy. I know it's not easy to listen to. It's not easy to listen to this day, but it wasn't easy living in that time when one more corporate man would say to me, let's call a man in and fix this for you, pretty lady. And you're like, I'm going to fix this with my team.
Right.
Not another man again, as I've said before. So, yeah, it was tough. And Neil Gaiman came up to me and said, he found me and he said, don't you dare listen to these people. They're idiots. They're idiots. And he said, they're sheep. So listen to me. Because of this record, you will have a career. Without this record, then they just want you to keep writing the first two over. Earthquakes and Pink, over and over and over again. But they didn't recognize those records when I first delivered them. It took them a while to even get those, if you follow me. So that was what happened.
Yeah.
And And Neil said, you
Yeah.
tour. This was early on. You don't stop. You take this to every town. You keep going and you let the fans drive this and let's see what happens. And I will always thank
And
him.
I mean, yeah, I would say it's one of the greatest albums of the last 500 years. So, and I think most fans who are listening would agree. Let's then rewind 2 years before that to 1994. People keep asking you, what would you tell your teenage self? I don't really care about teenage Tori. I'm interested in 31-year-old Tori, who has Cornflake Girl playing on MTV every hour, who's on the cover of Rolling Stone. What would you tell that Tori now? What have you learned about faith since then? And what would you say?
I would have said, there's going to come a time on the next record when a drummer's going to ask you to retrack so that you get the grooves really locked in. And you need to trust yourself that you can retrack. Well, I didn't retrack. There were some mistakes that I myself made on Pele. But again, I couldn't let go of the sound that was made in the church. I couldn't let it go. The harpsichord,
Right.
I couldn't let that go. We'd work for weeks and weeks and weeks. So, yeah, so experience, Noah, sometimes that's the thing. You only learn while you're experiencing it. That's how you learn things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I always love talking to Noah. He asks me questions that just really push me. Hoping he'll be back in a second.
You're doing very well. The Zoom conferences are a terror that will live on past this quarantine.
There you are, Noah.
Oh, just putting my groove on, Noah. I'll stick around just in case.
I'm so spoiled for it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Bye.
That's a great segue, though, into something that we were talking about last week, which was you mentioned in The New Yorker going to get a Chick-fil-A sandwich for your dad.
Oh.
And some people reached out to me and said, doesn't Tori know about Chick-fil-A? I was like, I don't know if she knows about Chick-fil-A. She lives in Cornwall. What do I know? What does she know about Chick-fil-A? And if she did know that Chick-fil-A had this anti-gay reputation, I don't think she would go there, or she would feel conflicted. But let's find out. So let's find out. What did you know? What did you not know? Talk to me.
Okay. Well, Tash will tell you this. I've never been to Chick-fil-A except twice. And it was to pick up carry out for Granddad because he wouldn't go out to lunch with me and my sister because he wasn't feeling well. So this is not my choice. I don't know anything about Chick-fil-A. It's not in my frame. Mm-hmm. If I were going to have a chicken sandwich, I would probably make it. Or I'd go to Maria's in downtown Stewart. That's run by Andrea, who would make me a wonderful sandwich and believes in equality for all. So I had no idea that Chick-fil-A, until you told me, was funding anti-gay campaigns, and that's terrible. But it wasn't my choice. And if anybody knows of good chicken sandwiches that a 91-year-old man can like in Port St. Lucie, if they could let you know, that would be great.
Exactly. And it was like we were talking about, you only know what you know. And once you know, then you have the option or the choice to what you're going to do with that information. And that's in general, that's everything that we confront, right?
That's everything. Yeah. You only know what you know. And you can't assume that somebody knows something because, I mean, I'm not a big, again, I'm not a big fast food follower or fan. So I don't really know much about it. But thank you for letting me know. Now I know.
It's my pleasure. I'm going to read a couple lines from the book. And I'm already getting a little emotional, so let's just see how this goes.
Okay.
You write in the book how Mary tells you the songs are the things that will keep you connected, and you say, she told you, every talk we've had, every walk we've ever taken, every song you've sung to me since you were a child, they will live on in our hearts and in our songs. Never forget that we all of those that you've written about live on in songs. You can find us there whenever you need us or just want to chat. This is your gold dust. Never forget this. We've talked. I lost my dad, and I've heard you say that you don't know what it's like to lose someone like that and you go through it. But I'm interested now, approach the songs in a different way. Will it be different now when you play Mother or when you play Mary's Eyes? Or I remember in 2005, someone asked you to play Gold Dust and you told them point blank, I don't think I can play that tonight because my parents will be there and I think it'll be too emotional. Do you think now these songs, now that Mary's told you this, you have a new way into them? Or do you think they'll be even harder for you to play?
You know, I'm not sure, Noah. I think Mary is becoming stronger in our lives with every day. In that the Mary that we knew before the stroke is just bubbling up from I don't know where, but her spirit is here. She's with us. For the first many, many weeks after she died, it was really dark and it was really tough. So I think the songs, though, and also some of the songs that are being created, inspired by these amazing women, by Mary and by Beanie, Nancy Shanks, and they have inspired so many lines and so many songs for so many years that I can't imagine that they won't show up on the new record. I know they're showing up. I can feel them. Other things are showing up too, because this cataclysm, this change that we're experiencing right now, this lockdown, this type of agreed house arrest. When I say agreed, those of us that followed the rules because we felt that was what we wanted to do to be helpful. And, you know, I think songs are coming to answer that because it's the mental and the emotional things that are coming up out of this for so many people, the challenges that people are facing, the things, but just sitting with ourselves that are coming up, the issues. We were talking about processing and how some people process by being alone. But
Right.
everybody knows now my husband is never alone. He would give anything to be alone, but he can't. He's just not. That's just not what his situation is. So his way to process, he's having to adapt to that. And my way to process was to travel. In the book, we talk about taking pilgrimages. I would just go.
Well, you can't do that.
I can't do that. So, but that's what I would do. I'd go to the States, jump in my truck, and that's what I do.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about before we go to we'll go to some questions from the fans, but I wanted to end on this. The other day, someone asked you how we stay emotionally connected when we can't be together physically. And you took a good 10 seconds before you responded, I don't know. And there was another moment in the chat on Monday when someone asked you about Mary and you said, I don't know where people go after they leave this planet. There was a lot of sort of this theme of like uncertainty. And I think we're told oftentimes that when we feel uncertain, that's a bad thing. And I think for me, I've been thinking a lot about this. If people would just admit that they don't know things more often, like maybe our president or our leaders, that we could actually get past that and say, I don't know, but we're working on it and we're going to get there. So I'd love to hear for you to sort of talk about this idea of uncertainty right now and how we move beyond it, if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, clearly there is a lot that is unknown. We don't know when we'll be able to have a live concert again and gather together in that way. Actors that are on the stage, stage actors don't know that either. There's so many facets of the entertainment world we don't know, of the world as well that we don't know. And there might be a second lockdown if we don't know. We just don't know. There's a lot we don't know. So, okay, that's freeing in a way to admit that. And it comes with anxiety. I get it, because the unknown, you can't plan. I have no idea when I'm going to see my family again in the States. My dad, I have no idea. And so therefore, what do I know? What I know is that I'm very fortunate to be able to be near a piano. I'm very fortunate to have that. And we happen to be at a recording studio, not just, one in my bedroom. And I'm not having a go at that, because some electronic music, you can absolutely do that. And you don't need, with a Busendorfer, you need microphones for it to be done right. And the way I would want to do it, I'm not saying anybody don't record your piano in your living room, knock yourself out. But we can make a record. We can do that. And we were planning on doing that after we finished the book tour in America. We were going to come back here, and some musicians were going to come down maybe and visit and jam. And that was all very exciting. And we're finding other ways to maybe do that. And so, yes, it's what I can do. And the thing is, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have that, if you're a typist or whatever. And I guess that question about paralysis was such a powerful one from the playwright, because I understand the paralysis. And yet we have to find ways to become artists with the big A, not just being artists when the climate, what did they say? When it's smooth sailing. How's that? So these are real unknown choppy waters. We're in a marathon now. And we have to stay the course, and finding ways to inspire each other, to encourage each other. And we did talk about writing ourselves out of the paralysis, writing ourselves out of hell. And that's not easy. No. It's not easy to be an artist at this time. It's not. And it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for you need to have the stomach for it.
Right.
So come on, let's buck up. Big hug. And we all have our teary days. That's okay. We all have our days, like you said, when you're going to eat your cookies and on the couch. That's going to happen to all of us. But I also think, Noah, there's an opportunity here. People are going to need to hear and read stories. They're going to need to hear, because, some relationships aren't making it right now. Some people are falling apart. Some lady said to me the other day, I have to figure out how to teach my kids while get on my conference calls, and while they're running around naked behind me, and then not kill my husband. I'm like, okay.
Right.
Multitasking.
Yeah. Totally. And I think what, we were talking about earlier before we got on here is that art can also be the thing that saves us, either making it or just fine. I mean, I spent the day yesterday getting ready for this by listening to you. And that was really comforting, and not in like a nostalgic way where it's like, oh, I'm trying to escape everything that's going on. But it's just like, here is this person who's been in my life for 30 years. And there's something grounding in having these songs that I've related to through good times and bad, that have taught me things to be able to go to that. I think that that's powerful too. And I think that that's another tool that we have to get through this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm hearing a lot of jazz because Tash's boyfriend has been quarantining with us, and he's a bass player, and he's studying jazz at Guildhall. So I'm being introduced to jazz in a way that I've never experienced. I'm really learning a lot. I would have never heard some of this. So it is a time where we're watching things, and I'm reading stuff, all kinds of stuff, and going through. We're back to the library again, going into the library and pulling out those books, whether it's by William Blake or some of the writers, the artists that went before us that created through really tough times. And I think about that art that gave sustenance to our ancestors, whether it's the music or the poetry or the novels or the plays. And I think that that's really essential that we remember that we writers, whatever our form, or creators, whatever our form, we haven't talked about dance yet. But somebody had asked about if I ever saw Night of Hunters as a film. I always dreamed it would be a ballet. I always dreamed that might happen one day because I think it would lend itself to that. But anyway, yeah, I think, Noah, we can create. And so why not? Because the world needs it.
Let's do a couple more questions.
Okay.
I completely agree. Are you ready for a couple more questions from fans?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes.
This is from Peter Zimmerman. He says, oh, hold on. You've recorded the majority of your live shows. Will you put out a live archive similar to other legendary acts like Pearl Jam or Fish, where you release new shows from the vault each month? It could be a great revenue model for this time of quarantine, and it could give fans the chance to relive specific moments from the last 30 years of your career.
Oh, that's a lovely question. Yeah, that's a really good question. I need to talk to the engineer about that. Yeah. As we're starting to make a new record, sometimes it's finding the time to find these old tapes, and especially the old ones, so that the information doesn't just fall off the tape. They have to bake the tapes. This is just lingo that they use, and there's a process there, and then mixing them all. But yeah, so I think if we weren't making a record, that's a really good suggestion, and I'll have a word with the engineer.
And do you have a copy of literally every live show that you've done? Do you guys do that every night?
Husband, do we do that every night? Did you hear that?
I didn't hear it. What did he say?
Go ahead. Yes.
That's incredible. And also, I'm happy to help make a list of the shows that I think you should release, so we can talk about that.
So why don't you make a list?
There are certain ones that need to be out there.
Send them to me, and I'll forward them to husband. How's that?
I'll make a list. I'll send it to you and Mark.
Good.
That's perfect. We got time for a couple more. Here's one. As an artist, pouring your soul into your work, how do you absorb feedback from your audience in the media? How do you not let the haters get to you? That's from Stephanie Schmid. You and I have talked about this before. You've told me that you don't read your press, that you don't even look at it. Is that still true? Do you get online and see what people are saying, or is that not interesting?
No, it's not that it's not. You can't segregate the good from the bad. So, and because you don't know the intentions of of the haters. Sometimes they really might not like the work, or sometimes they don't like the message because they don't want women to be empowered, or they don't want us as a group to be empowered. Because I don't know the intention, then I have to really weigh it. And so I don't immerse myself in that. But I do have trusted people that I play stuff for. And not all of them are my dearest friends, because not all my dearest friends have that kind of mind. When I say that, I mean, so objective that if, for instance, if you don't like, I don't know, white girl music, then some people can't then embrace a record that is white girl music because they just don't like the genre. So for somebody to be able to say, this isn't my type of music, but this is really done well, those are the kinds of people. Or this isn't done well. You know, Tori, have you thought about this? That this isn't working for me here, and why? So when you have those people who can offer that up, then that's a really good think tank, people to bounce suggestions off of and ideas off of. That's what you hope you cultivate over the years, those types of people. And sometimes they are in your family. Sometimes there are people that you just go, hey, what do you think of that? And they might say, well, I'm not so crazy about that one, but I really love that one. And then you just surround yourself with people when you're doing a project, people who you think, I can test drive this and make my changes, drill it down. Some people are really good at drilling things down, a subject matter. Well, I don't really understand this reference, whatever. So I think we're waiting for Noah to come back.
And that's strike 3, Noah. But I loved that answer. Yeah, I really agree with that. There's so many types of music that I don't listen to that I wish I had the capacity to understand, and that I don't. But that doesn't mean that that's not good music. So I think that that's a really good point to emphasize.
Yeah, I think who you have, Noah, in your inner circle, or I pull different people on for different projects sometimes, but there is a little gang that but there'll be some different people on this project because I'm working with a new team over at DECA, and I'm very excited about that. I'm working with the lady president, Becky, and I haven't worked with the lady president since Polly Anthony on Scarlet. So it's very exciting to and there are a lot of young people on the team at DECA, lots of young people, and that's really thrilling. They're on my team. My project manager is, at least 30 years younger than I am, and I think that's really exciting. He's got all these ideas, and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I think we're going to end it because it's been an hour and my side keeps fucking up. But before we end it, everyone should go and get the book. It's out now. It's amazing. You saw me almost tear up when I was reading from it. The last thing I'm going to say to you is that the internet has spoken, and they think that Tash should get a cat.
Oh, have they spoken?
So,
has the internet spoken?
They've spoken.
Oh, Pappy.
Yeah. They want her to get a cat. So now it's not just her, it's her and millions of people who think she deserves it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, internet.
All right.
Short hair, English short hair coming to Martian engineering.
Thank you, internet.
Exactly.
No, you're a star and you're so loved.
And I love you and thank you for doing this. Everyone, thank you for going to get the books out of the library. Thanks for being so open. And thanks for just being around right now. And I think a lot of people need you. And we'll talk very soon.
Please. You have my email.
Okay. Take care of yourself.
Okay, honey. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you.